Did it say that it's recording now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, how beautiful to have so many people here. Welcome, everyone. My name is Marina Citrin. I'm a professor of sociology at Binghamton University. And Dr. Mary Taylor and I, who's there at the CUNY Graduate Center, the Center for Place, Culture, and Politics, will be co-moderating this event today. I don't know, Mary, if you want to say something.
That's okay. I'll say a word about myself when I speak next. Thanks, Marina.
Great. Okay. So I just wanted to let everyone know, as we've announced a few times now, there is interpretation into Kurdish and Spanish, and how to do that is in the link. And since we have an incredible group of people dialoguing today from the universities in Rojava and scholars from all over the world, we plan to have this go for about an hour and a half. And so what that's going to mean is it's very unlikely we're going to have an open discussion, which is why all of you are on mute. There are other reasons people are on mute as well. And so the way this event is going to go is that Dr. Taylor and Dr. Harvey are going to begin with about a 5-minute introduction overall to the event. And then we'll hear from, and I will do a brief introduction for the scholars from the University of Rojava who are with us, who will be speaking, also giving a kind of general introduction and background, both to the region and to the university system that's so innovative there now. And then the way it will work is all of the international scholars who are joining us as formal guests and participants. I know all of you are scholars in different ways and from all over the world. What we're going to do is have a question from each person, which will be maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then a 15-minute response from the faculty at the University of Rojava, and then another question from another person. And Mary and I are going to go back and forth introducing the various scholars from around the world. I will announce one more time, we are recording this event. We will share the recording widely, but if you're asking me individually to record, I am denying individual recordings of the event, and I apologize for that. So without further ado, Mary, if you would begin, and thank you, David Harvey, for joining us.
Okay, so greetings, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be part of this, the organizing team, and I want to thank everyone who is here and has made an effort to take part in this very important discussion. Just a word about myself. Marina has already said I'm at the CUNY Graduate Center at the Center for Place, Culture, and Politics. I think that's enough for me. So what I'm going to do now is to introduce David Harvey, who will say a few words, and then we will continue to move through our program. So David Harvey, sitting next to me, my good friend and mentor, is the Distinguished Professor of Geography and Anthropology here at the Graduate Center of the City University of New York. Among many, many, many books, he is the author of The Limits to Capital and The Companions to Marx's Capital and Marx's Grundrisse. You can, if you are interested, you can access his many lectures on reading Capital on his website, davidharvey.com. David and I were very fortunate to host folks from Rojava years ago, before the university was founded. And that was one of the conversations we had back then, was about the future of this university. So we're both really thrilled to be here today. So I'm going to turn things over to David now.
Yeah, I don't have that much to contribute to the substance of this meeting, but I'm absolutely delighted to be able to participate and listen in to what is happening. I was always very impressed from the very beginning with the ideas and some of the practices that were emerging in Rojava. And actually, I wanted to make one particular observation, which is, I think, very significant, and that is that we are at a time in the global situation where, to put it mildly, capital is in a mess. Capital is in a mess. Geopolitically, everything is in a mess. And it actually, therefore, seems to me that this long tradition of seeking alternatives and thinking about alternatives is no longer a matter of choice. It's a matter of urgency. And that I think that right now we have to discover new ways to be able to look at everything from the environmental question to multicultural and multi-ethnic and other questions, to really see ourselves creating a new world, a new set of possibilities. And one of the things that was always very inspiring about conversations that I was having with people from Rojava in the early days was precisely the ability to be able to think beyond, well, okay, this is just a solution to our problems. It's about getting a solution to the problems which exist right now in terms of the manner of economic development, the forms of economic development, and the way in which capital itself is doubling down on itself and leading into a kind of almost a fictitious world, where my own particular view right now is that capital is really running on fumes. It's not running on real activity at all. And there's a lot of fictitious capital and fictitious forms around, which are absolutely impossible to pin down and turn into something which is useful for the mass of the population. So we have a situation where I think the mass of the population would recognize that the need for something different, and that something different is the kind of thing that is beginning to be charged through the Rojava experience. And so I'm delighted to have the possibility to listen in terms of finding out what exactly is happening to that movement right now. So with that, I will turn it over and turn it back to Mary and to you, and I look forward very much to the discussion.
Marina, I think it's over to you now.
It is fabulous. Thank you.
I can introduce you again if you'd like, but I think
no, that is fine.
Okay.
That is fine. I'm at Binghamton University. I do want to say that our Department of Sociology and Rojava University have developed a formal relationship that we are very proud of. I'm going to introduce just briefly a number of participants. We have a number of faculty from the University of Rojava and the systems of formal education in Rojava with us who will all be speaking. We have Dr. Mustafa Almhodo. I'm sorry if you can help me with names, please, who's the Director of International Relations, the office in Rojava University and the Civil Diplomacy Center of North and East Syria. We have Dr. Zozan, and she's with the Genealogy. We have Dr. Rohan Mustafa, and she's the co-chair of the Center for Coordination between the Universities of North and East Syria. We have Dr. Sardar Sadi, who's the co-director of the Graduate Institute of Social Sciences and Humanities at the University of Rojava, which is graduating their first graduate class this year, which is a massive accomplishment to celebrate. And I think we might perhaps have some graduate students from the University of Rojava with us, which I should say, as we're facilitating, we had said that this is a dialogue between global scholars, who were specifically invited at the University of Rojava, and if some of the graduate students or other faculty from Rojava choose to participate, that is something that we have as an open possibility. And last, Dr. Sorgul Abdulaslam, she is the co-chair of the Faculty of Social Sciences. So with that, I don't know if Sardar or Mohammed, which one of you is maybe facilitating amongst all of you for this presentation, how that's been organized. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marina. It's wonderful to be here. I'm really grateful for all of your work, all of the team behind this session. It's really amazing to see so many familiar and new faces. I was very lucky and honored to meet Professor David Harvey in Diyarbakir in 2015, and I actually interviewed him. At that time, he was trying to go to Kobani, but it was a little bit difficult. I'm not sure if you could go, Professor Harvey, but yes, yeah. We as the people working with the universities of Northeast Syria, we know that the work that we are doing there is, of course, under immense pressure, with all sort of attacks, all sort of embargoes against the region, and with everything that's happening in the region. And we know that these sort of events, these sort of relationships, the solidarity that we are building with scholars, with academics, with activists, with people around the world is the way for our survival, is the way for our flourishing and continuing to collaborate, to cooperate with people around the world who want a different, a better future, a better possibilities for people who are suffering, especially in the region where we are. I think we can start with Mamusta Rohan. She will, Mamusta Rohan Mustafa, she has been doing academic work with the universities of the region since 2014. In 2015, she was one of the leading academics at the University of Afrin. Afrin in 2017 was occupied by Turkey, and still it's under occupation. Unfortunately, University of Afrin was turned into a branch of the University of Gaziantep, and this is where the politics of assimilation of Turkey has extended beyond the borders of the country. Mamusta Rohan Mustafa. So Mamusta basically is a Kurdish name. When we call a teacher, it's a kind of a substitute for doctor or professor. Mamusta Rohan Mustafa has been leading a coordination center for the universities of Northeast Syria since its establishment, and she is one of the faculty of the University of Rojava. So without further ado, I will leave the screen to Mamusta Rohan, and I can maybe after that provide a little bit of background into the education system in the Northeast Syria region, how it started, like, and the kind of contextualize it with the history of Syria and education in Syria in the past 50 years. Mamusta Rohan Kalamka. And for those, Mamusta Rohan is going to speak in Kurdish. You can select English to hear her out. Kalamka Mamusta Rohan.
Spas Dr. Sardar, Dambash, good evening. Despeke am khiratna hamu kasin ki uru mara ve Diyaloga benirch beqimat.
I'd like to welcome everyone in this panel today. I'm very excited to be here, to be with you, and the colorfulness of this seminar. All of you that participate and devote your time to be here today. It's strengthened our experience, our work that we are doing for our university. And we value their work, those who spare their time and contribute this process. We all know when the war started in Syria, and especially in Rojava, at the beginning of the Rojava revolution. The atrocities that applied to Rojava from Turkey and their gangs, mainly, especially with army means. On the other side, we had to defend ourselves and at the same time establish this institution, our revolutionary work. At the same time, we had to deal with war and real life. Real life as in academia too. as Dr. Serdar has mentioned, Afrin University was established in 2015. Kobani was established, University of Kobani was established in 2017. And Raqqa, the university in Raqqa was established in 2021. Time by time, we've had this intention and worked towards it. The universities were not only to be for Kurds, but also for all the peoples that lived in the region, for Arabs, for non-Kurdish groups of people. And it was to be for all peoples of the region. In midst of these difficulties, we aimed to create alternative universities, universities that have philosophy of free people, and in line with our philosophy of the Kurdish movement, the equality between men and women, women freedom, ecologic life, and we've established our universities based on these philosophies. Our aim is to create alternative universities compared with the existing universities. Because all the universities before us were established in the region from the perspective of states in the region who had the nation states mindset, one language, one religion, one angle of knowledge. Therefore, our universities are alternative ones. And when I say alternative, it's with alternative works against the mono culture universities. The universities that are in Middle East are in the under shade of the capitalism, and they serve as a tool to the states, to the regimes in the region. Despite the fact that the improvements in 21st century's technological and knowledge, and unfortunately in the region, the war is in rise. The problems are in rise against the will of a university, against the will of knowledge. Therefore, we say, in our opinion, the knowledge, the philosophy should be in serve of people, not to create problems, to solve the problems, to have a life without fear. Because their universities wanted to have an education to have more people like themselves, like their mindset. As opposed to them, our philosophy is to educate people with free mind, who serve for freedom. Many might say that this is just a philosophical thing that difficult to bring in life, but with our system throughout our universities, we are bringing life these ideas, not just theoretically, but also practically in everyday life. For example, we said for us, the equality between men and women is a pioneer thing. And therefore, the universities of Northeast Syria have established accordingly, and we have co-chair system along our universities. You can see appearance of men and women equal. There is not hierarchy. There is not upper or below. We are all equal and valuable with the work that we do, not with who we are. And strengthen the with this, we've established the free associations. Through these associations, through this, we have platforms. Everyone can express their ideas again equally. When you see the index of our material that we teach throughout the classes, again the means of free society is the valued one, is the strengthened one, in line with the philosophy that we are working as a base. With the democratical nation, with index of such ideas that we want to bring forward in everyday life. We work and we live with these philosophies. It's not just a theoretical thing that is at university, but it's also at everyday life. But unfortunately, as we try to do these works, the atrocities, the attacks by others are still heavily ongoing, mainly from Turkey. This doesn't matter how much we agree or not, these attacks are still there as an everyday practice, and their aim is to stop, to make it difficult for us to work in line our philosophies. Unfortunately, the situation can go bad. They, as a result of those attacks, we lose our members of our society, our friends, comrades. As we try to strengthen the base of our universities, at the same time they work and with aim of making it difficult for us. And as an example of Afrin, they try to assimilate the peoples of this area, as the example of Afrin, in Cîhanî, in Grespi, in Afrin, not only Kurds but also Arabs of the region are being victim of this assimilation policy, as in society engineering. And as we the conditions that we are living in, we need to still work hard and work towards our goal of creating a free society. And
so I'm just going to provide a very brief background of the education system in Northeast Syria, especially higher education, and I'm hoping we will have more time for discussions. I think I can share my screen, right? Yes. Okay, so basically, I hope the translation was okay, and because Mr. Rohan basically provided an overview of the education system of the region and the background, and how right now the autonomous administration of Northeast Syria is strategizing on pedagogy and higher education. But if I provide a little bit more background into what's going on basically in Northeast Syria, the region that we call Rojava, especially in the early years of the revolution. So the region that you can see in the map right now, and I have other maps that I can show maybe. Northeast Syria or Rojava is basically, it's one of the areas of Syria where the majority of Kurdish population and other ethnic and religious communities such as Arabs, Assyrians, Armenians, Syriacs, Chechens, and Yazidis, Turkmens, and others live. And the diversity of this region was shattered by the colonial mappings in the early 20th century. It was followed by the rise of the newly established nation states and decades of nationalist ideologies and nation-building projects in Syria, in Turkey, in Iraq. It was, of course, after Sykes-Picot Agreement, followed by Lausanne Agreement that partitioned Middle East between all of those countries that we have right now. Many of these communities, especially Kurds, have historically been subjected to these politics in different forms of violence, marginalization, and exclusion. Their rights for a peaceful life on their lands have been violated. They have been displaced, dispossessed. The right for a free and democratic education in their own language have been denied. Their language and cultural practices have been suppressed. They have been assimilated, and their life has been shaped in constant struggle for basic rights. And especially in Syria, politics of assimilation and Arabization not only changed the demography of the region, especially in the 1960s with the Arab Belt project, if you are familiar, but also displaced and dispossessed hundreds of thousands of Kurds, stripped citizenship from many of them, and banned Kurdish language and culture. The education system of Syria followed, and in many parts still follows, this politics. In this system, as in other authoritarian education systems, knowledge is the property of the state, and schools are the means of installing the state's chauvinist ideology in the society and creating desired citizenship and nationhood. And moreover, there was a strategy of de-development against the region. And this strategy deprived the region from schools and educational infrastructures, and kept people intentionally illiterate. And that was another side of the state violence in the region. So if I go back to the other map, so the only university in the region was, before the revolution, the Rojava Revolution 2012, was Al Furat, and it was established in 2006 in Deir ez-Zor. Al Furat University had a branch in Hasake, and there was another not campus, but kind of a school in Raqqa, but that was it. That was the only higher education institute in the east of Euphrates River. After the revolution, as Rohan Mustafa said, the University of Afrin was established in 2015, but with the Turkish invasion of 2018, it was taken over and became a branch of the University of Gaziantep, as I said. Then the University of Rojava, 2016, established with 4 campuses, one in Kamishlu, one in Rumelan, and another one in Hasake. The one in Cîhanî was also, let me go back to the previous one. The one in Cîhanî was again occupied after the Turkish invasion of the region in 2019. In 2017, the University of Kobani was established, and it was a really symbolic university because Kobani was basically demolished entirely because of the resistance and the war against ISIS in 2014-2015. So the opening of the university in that city was quite symbolic, similar to University of Al-Sharq in Raqqa. As you know, Raqqa was the capital of the Islamic State, and in 2021, when the University of Al-Sharq was established, it was like in a genuine meaning of community work. It was something that was produced, that was established, that was made by the people of Raqqa, by the intellectuals, by academics who refused to leave Syria. They remained there, and most of the faculty members, most of the staff of the University of Al-Sharqa are natives of Raqqa. And it's interesting that the Syrian regime is most sensitive with the University of Al-Sharq, because they said, you can go back to your Kurdish cities, do whatever you want for the time being, but you cannot do anything for in Arabic for the people, the Arab people of the region. And this shows, basically, this university shows that this project is not a nationalist project for the Kurdish population of the region. This is a project for the whole of the country. This is a revolutionary project for democratic transformation for the region, an alternative for not just Syria, but the whole region. This alternative is coming based on the paradigm of democratic confederalism, written and produced by the imprisoned leader of the Kurdish leader, Abdullah Öcalan. You may be familiar with Abdullah Öcalan's works, and probably our friends are going to talk about that in more details. So maybe a few more words about why these universities are important. As Mr. Rohan said, these universities are kind of turning around the politics of higher education in the region. But when you see at the programs of these universities, you feel the need for raising a new generation of professionals to rebuild the society and infrastructures in the region. Elementary and secondary teacher programs in science and humanities are the primary ones in these universities, besides some engineering programs in agriculture, petroleum, electricity, mechatronic, as well as civil engineering. So the need for rebuilding this region is one of the vital ones for the people of the region. As Rohan said, there's like this two parts of this dialectic of living in the region. One side is to fight to protect the region, to protect its achievements, to protect the revolution. The other side is to rebuild institutions, infrastructures, despite all of the attacks, the invasions of the Turkish army and all other hostile groups and countries in the region. The embargo that has been imposed on Rojava. Just 2 weeks ago, Turkey destroyed the very basic and infant infrastructures of the region, like all of the power stations, the electricity grid system in the region, the water treatment facilities, schools, many roads, and many places where people could get fuel. All of them were destroyed. Like I heard that the damage is more than $2 billion, and the money probably is not that important as the material, because there is no material to rebuild these areas. There is no expertise in the region that can rebuild these electric grids, the water facility, treatment facilities, and all of the infrastructures that are needed for the people to live a decent life. And on the side of the social sciences and humanities, Rohan Mustafa said, like, some of the pillars of these programs, but I would also add that decolonization and reclaiming knowledge is an incredibly important aspects of these programs, and emphasizing on multilingual and multicultural characteristics of the region, and implementing programs that aims to relieve education in these languages very important. It is while these universities are incorporating ancient philosophy and teachings of the indigenous peoples of Mesopotamia, there is also a firm refusal against the state's educational system and pedagogy. And there are like many examples on how these universities are refusing the state's education policy. And one very important part of that I'm hoping that we'll have in our discussions, the conversation today, centralizing women and knowledge, and the knowledge system known as genealogy, which can translate into the science or the knowledge system of women in the education system of the region. And this is the kind of a ideological groundwork that has been developed by the Kurdish women's movements based on the teachings of, again, the imprisoned Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan. And the slogan, Zanîngeha Azadi, or Women, Life, Freedom, that took over Iran and hopefully will take over the whole region. It became a global slogan. It's coming from this moment. In fact, Öcalan is the architect of the theoretical framework behind all of that. And each universities have departments of genealogy, and genealogy is an integrated part of all of programs in the university. It doesn't matter science or humanities. So just to conclude, these universities and their ideals, of course, are very ambitious. They come with major challenges and obstacles. As Rohan Mustafa said, building an alternative university has been very difficult and impossible task for many people around the world, for many communities around the world, but especially in Rojava, because they have to deal with the history of assimilation, with the history of all of the fights between communities and all of the issues, sectarianism, and the state-imposed ideology and educational system. So against all of that, and also to rebuild this region, it has been a very big challenge. The lack of professional and academic staff is another side of that. And teaching in Kurdish and non-Arabic languages is also a very difficult task because of decades of assimilation and repression against these languages. And we don't have the capacity, the translations, enough translations, Kurdish translations for our classes, and the lack of material in these languages and in general is a very, very crucial one. But on top of all of that, the lack of recognition for the region and for all of these universities is one really terrible side of all of that, because of all of our work. Of course, we don't ask for recognition. We don't care about recognition. We do our work with our communities, but like rightfully, some of students, they are worried about if their diploma is valid, because the regime does not approve this education system. And the region, the Autonomous Administration of Northeast Syria, is not a recognized, internationally recognized entity. So the work that we are doing is basically a work for the community, for the people, and to prove that, as Professor David Harvey once told me, in the most difficult places, alternatives can be born. Thank you.
Thank you, Sardar and Rohan Mostafa, for your really enlightened and heartfelt comments and information shared with us. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, who's here in solidarity from South Africa. I'd like to introduce Diyaloga Paiku. She is an activist scholar and decolonial feminist. She's an international movement builder working with the intersection of grassroots movement building and academic scholarship. She's lived and worked across 45 countries and is a member of the Walter and Patricia Rodney Commission on Reparations, leading the South African chapter on the political economy of reparations there. Her work contributes to reassessing well-being economics from a feminist well-being perspective, and she has been working on including international trade and international economics in the context of North-South relations, political economy, regional integration of African states, feminist economics, international development, and international relations in relation to African positionality over 20 years. Is a senior research fellow at Trade Collective and a fellow at the University of Johannesburg. She's a member of Wellbeing Economy Alliance, a member of Africa Futures Lab and the South Feminist Futures. And of course, she's also currently part of the Global Tapestry of Alternatives, where we met her. So with no further ado, I'd like to invite you, Diyaloga, to join us now.
Thanks so much,
Sorry
Mary.
for interrupting, but we have a translation problem right now. I can hear Kurdish translation in the English channel, so the translator who is translating into Kurdish should change the channels.
I think that was probably coming through me because I couldn't, I'm not coordinated enough to speak to you and change the interpretation at the same time. So let's see. Okay, all right, okay.
Okay, I hope I'm audible without any multiple languages, and so I'd firstly thank you so much. My name, as has been said, is Diyaloga Paiku. I am indeed based in South Africa, a child of many nations, but mostly today I'm really standing here in solidarity with the comrades, the colleagues, the friends from this extremely complicated region and identity of Rojava. And I'd really like to perhaps situate my comments there as well. Comments / questions / statements of solidarity. And I think the first is really that I'm really interested in what many of us, I mean, I think especially in South Africa and many other settler states, territory is everything. And coming from being recovering from settler colonial state, I am really intrigued and fascinated by the way that identities can be formed that are trans-geographic and translocational, I mean, across 4 different countries. And I'm also interested in how then this means that in a non-linear and non-territorial state, how is belonging defined and what does citizenship mean in that regard? Especially a nation that is without borders and a nation that is without walls, as it were. And I'm also very intrigued because I think that this is a challenge of how we construct meaning in nations, in states and in statehood, and even in personhood. What does it mean to belong if we don't have a territory which we call our own? And again, the basis of settler colonialism is this notion that states and land are everything. So I would love to hear and understand a bit more from the comrades how this is playing itself out. I think the other piece is this curriculum of revolution and this revolutionary curriculum that has centered feminist principles and feminist imaginations as the thing that everything else must be wrapped around, the thing that governance must be wrapped around, the thing that belonging, the thing that the functioning of this and the design of this state and of this being is wrapped around. And I would be interested to know a bit more around how this was even, patriarchy is a big animal. And I'd be interested to understand how this is being mediated, this is being transacted, this is being pushed back. What are the negotiating places of negotiation, and perhaps the places of tension in this very deeply defined and ingrained and embedded feminist revolutionary principle, and also this whole notion of what it means to be non-statist. I mean, this vernacular of non-statism, which is, of course, very patriarchal and very masculine. I've written a paper in the past called Men and Their States, because it is very much around our countries and the big man who runs our states. And I've always been of the suspicion that women are basically adjacent to this project, before the national project, and how then Rojava and the Kurdish imagination gives us the opportunity to rethink and to reframe this in ways that are really thoughtful, intentional, revolutionary, non-adjacent, and centered, centered in a space and a place that gives meaning to belonging beyond states, beyond men and their states, in ways that I think the rest of the world has a lot to draw from. And I really look forward to drawing from that. So, and I thank you, and I send deepest love and respect as well. Thank you.
I don't think you have to raise your hands. I think if you can decide amongst, of the Sorgul, if you want to decide amongst yourselves who responds, that would be wonderful.
Sure.
If people could speak slowly, I'm sorry, I should have said this earlier. There's been a request from the translators. Thank you.
Okay. Sorgul and Zozan, if you would like to respond, that would be great, and speak slowly, please. Sorgul yan Zozan eger ku shkera khon bersif bidin li hedi baxfin jber ku perskrika wergere he. Sorgul?
بله دکتر البرز آماده دستفکیات که خوش مثل بداية دیالوگی بومن بخير هاتنا حمي كسين بشاربان.
I'm greeting everybody. Thank everybody to have come to this talk. The questions were spanning across many topics, so I will try to give a response about the system that is being created in Rojava. Is one that is going beyond the classical nation state and is being pioneered in Kurdistan, that fell victim to the partition between different states. It's a people, the Kurds are a people, and also the other peoples in the region that have existed for thousands of years in the same region. The revolution that started in Rojava in 2011 wanted to create an alternative system.
İnternet أخباره ضعيفة.
Your voice isn't coming very well across. Maybe you can turn off your camera. Revolution that started in Syria in 2011, the base for the big changes that we wanted to push forward have been implemented in Rojava in northern East Syria. This system adheres to the principles of democratic independence, which does not try to enforce a centralized rule on the region. It was created to solve the. It was also created to solve the issue of the partition of Kurdistan. Abdullah Öcalan suggested, in theory, a solution where borders could be lifted in a region where so many peoples are living. Since the state of the Ba'ath regime in Syria started its assimilation policies on all the different ethnicities in the region. The different communities were forced into identifying with, into losing their identity. So there are many peoples in the region that have their old traditional religions that actually want to survive, and they have identified themselves with the option to be able to express themselves in a democratic, independent region. They understood as well that it's a very alternative system that has never been seen before, that gives you the option to govern yourself. All the while we see how the surrounding states are trying to obstruct the creation of this totally alternative system. But they could easily, in theory, change their own system to that of a non-centralized, non-enforcing democratic autonomous system. That was all that I wanted to say.
Rızkar?
Professor Zozan, maybe she wants to say something about genealogy. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be able to join this project. We are very happy that we can talk about the system of Rojava and that there is much attention for it, and also for the work about genealogy. We are very happy about that. These are steps that we, of course, they are totally applicable to the whole world, but we see that it is a reflection of the solution that we are trying to find for Kurdistan and the regional problems, that this reflection is mirroring to the world as a solution. As we are doing here, it can be applied to the world. Someone who is not able to find a solution for their own region is not able to find a solution for the women around the world. That's the situation as we see. The work of genealogy is understood by that principle practically. We have very difficult circumstances. So how should we define, how is a person, especially a woman, able to decide on her own fate, despite all the attacks from occupiers and social norms? So how are you able to protect yourself? There are many situations of poverty. How are you able to overcome that? How are you able to educate in your own language, which has been prohibited for such a long time over the decades? The things that have accumulated in genealogy is basically the answer to all those questions. The leader Abdullah Öcalan has coined the principle of genealogy and also the word, but all our activists have worked it further, brought it to different levels, and discussed it in every aspect. So all the borders that would have been national or regional, they have been already exceeded. So the communication that we are doing are the base for this process, and we are all learning from each other, both in the region and also from all around the world, of different feminist organizations that have experiences that are necessary for us to know, and also the experiences that the Kurdish women have accumulated during the revolutions as part of the philosophy as knowledge, and also about the capitalist influence which degraded society's situation. The experience of the Kurdish women is very big, and we can also from our side give knowledge to the world. And women are living under a situation of oppression everywhere, especially under the capitalist system. So we all are able to benefit from each other. There's a dialogue going on from both sides, a very rich one, where all experiences are shared. We are able by that way to bring forward our activism for genealogy. We see the result of all this interaction between different groups, and I'm not sure if that was the only question, but I can answer to specific questions if they are repeated.
Thank you so much. So I think Mary and I have decided we appreciate the questions, the conversation so far, and our translators, without whom we couldn't talk to each other, how important you are. And we committed to not letting this go on very, very long for the sake of our translators as well. So what we decided to do is we will cluster the next 3 questions. And so I will introduce Arturo, Mary will introduce Teresa, I will then introduce Walden, and you'll each ask your question, and then the answers can be taken collectively. And we can go a little past 1:30. We started a little late, but the translator should signal us when it starts to just feel too much. Okay, so Arturo Escobar is an activist researcher from Cali, Colombia, working on territorial struggles against extractivism, eco-social transitions, and ontological design. He was professor of anthropology and political ecology at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill until 2018, and is currently affiliated with the PhD program in environmental sciences at the Universidad del Valle in Cali. That's in Colombia. Over the past 30 years, he's worked closely with Afro-descendant environmental and feminist organizations in Colombia. His most well-known book is Encountering Development, The Making and Unmaking of the Third World. His most recent books are Designs for the Pluriuniverse, Radical Independence, Autonomy, and the Making of Worlds, and Pluriuniversal Politics, The Real and the Possible. Thank you, Arturo. So if you would put your question in the mix, and then we're going to hold it. Thank you.
Arturo, you're muted.
Arturo is unmuted, but there is no sound coming in. So perhaps it's the headphones.
Are you speaking in? Did everyone go back to the original language, Arturo?
He had this problem earlier and fixed it, so I know that he can do it again.
Arturo, do you want to work on fixing it? And we have Teresa. Maybe Mary, do you want to introduce Teresa? Is that okay? And Arturo, you work on...
Sure, let's do that.
You can hear
Arturo,
your voice
you fixed it before, so I'm sure that you'll figure out how to do it. So in the meantime, I'd like to introduce Teresa O'Keefe. She's a senior lecturer at the Department of Sociology and Criminology at the University College Cork in Ireland. She's a feminist sociologist who has been active in a number of campaigns in Ireland, including international feminist solidarity groups. Her research examines women's roles in revolutionary movements and feminist movement building in deeply divided societies. Her book, Feminist Identity Development and Activism in Revolutionary Movements, offers the first significant history of women's involvement in the Irish Republican movement during the Northern Irish Troubles. Arturo, shall we try you for your question now? And we can always go back to Teresa's question.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I had to take my headsets off. Just a second. Well, just let me know when. Hopefully it's going to be 3 minutes only. And I had two questions. I'm going to ask only one, but I want to, because we won't have time to do more. The second question was going to be about the concept of democratic modernity. But that would be a more theoretical political question, and we'll leave that aside. I'm very interested in that because for a Latin American critical activist intellectual, it's a very counterintuitive notion that we can actually talk about the democratic modernity. But I know the context there is very different. So my question, which I really worked on with close friend Xochitl Leiva Solano from Chiapas, Mexico, who is very close to the Zapatista struggle, is about the impact of the current conjuncture for the conditions under which the radical struggles of today are taking place. And I think Rohan already referred to it when she said that the conditions on the ground are so difficult now that it makes it almost impossible to carry on the implementation of the philosophy, the non-hierarchical philosophy, anti-capitalist philosophy of the Rojava Revolution in the practice in everyday life. So let me make just a quick observation, and I will ask the question. My observation is the following, that with climate change and the war in Ukraine and the brutal massacre that Israeli forces are committing in Gaza now after the Hamas violent actions in Israeli territory are to me a very clear evidence that the power elites of the world, especially the Western world, are totally unable to choose life over death. So in that sense, what we are getting stuck with is a new power structure, which is hyper-concentrated at the top, even more than it has been now, which has an amazing power destruction. It has a license to kill, and they are using it. They are using it in Chiapas today. They are using it in so many territories in the world today. So how does it create new conditions for the struggle, for thinking about the struggles in the context in which is not only the crisis of liberal humanism, but is the death of liberal humanism. And as a humanism based on values, that nobody believes in those values anymore. We cannot believe in those values anymore. So my question is, how are these changing the conditions for these radical alternatives and alternative struggles of today, which, as David said in his remarks, is an urgent need for the planet, for the planet at large, not only for the global south, but for everybody in the world. How do we re-articulate the commitment to the territorial struggles in the global south, including in these iconic struggles of Rojava, Zapatismo, Zanyarên, and so forth? What do we do now in those conditions, especially when people are so so beaten up and so under attack in the territories that they are finding it very difficult to even go along with any revolutionary political project? So that's my question.
Thank you, Arturo. And Teresa, apologies. I've introduced you and then asked you to wait. So just a quick reintroduction. Teresa is senior lecturer at University College Cork in Ireland, and her work is kind of summarized in her book, Feminist Identity, Development and Activism in Revolutionary Movements. Teresa.
Thanks so much, Mary. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here today, to be able to stand in solidarity with my comrades and colleagues at the University of Rojava. The comments that I'm going to make and the question that I'm going to pose to you come from, I suppose, a combination of my own practice as a feminist activist, but also as an academic who's concerned with feminist epistemology and I suppose the knowledge making or knowledge production around women's experiences. And I suppose as a starting point, in 2015, a delegation from the Free Women's Congress came to Ireland. They visited Ireland to meet with campaigners and activists. And as part of that tour, I organised an informal meeting with women who were involved in various feminist campaigns, whether it be reproductive justice, environmental, housing campaigns, international solidarity. And amongst the many topics of conversation that we discussed that day were how do we build movements across borders? How do we build solidarity across borders, feminist solidarity in particular? But also, how do we ensure that women's voices are heard, documented, and made visible within movements? So this has been an issue that's been well documented throughout history. And on the basis of that fruitful meeting in Dublin, I was invited to write for the third edition of Genealogy, an article based on my own research on gender equality and the revolutionary struggle within Ireland, more commonly referred to as Irish republicanism. I was asked to write around the theme of women and revolution. And the question, the framing that was put to me in that invitation was, and I'm going to read it out, a quote, if I may, from that request. And this is from the editors of Genealogy at the time. In order for women to be free, we need to analyze the historical processes of how the patriarchal and capitalist system affect us, and to uncover and document these effects. We need to analyze the experiences of women's struggles, and we need to push them forward. We know that many from many revolutionary experiences and processes that are claimed by class or national identity, the question of women has been undermined or postponed. Although women played the role as a revolutionary force, they retreated back into the kitchen at the end of the day, and the roles they played are undermined, silenced, or hidden. And I'd like to use that framing that was put to me and put it back to you and use it as a springboard to ask our colleagues to reflect on the tensions that arise, I suppose, in creating authentic histories of women's experiences in revolutionary movements. My own research on the north of Ireland shows that there's a tension not only from within movements and fear around being honest and talking about, you know, these difficult questions, which discuss kind of perhaps the sidelining or the invisibilizing of women's experiences. Another barrier to that comes from the problematic gaze of Western feminists or feminists from the global north, who tend to be dismissive of women's roles in revolutionary struggle. So with these kind of tensions in mind, I'd love for you to reflect a bit more on some of the practices that you've used or that are used through genealogy and through the establishment of the University of Rojava, that allow us to develop, I suppose, histories of our women's involvement in movements that are meaningful, but also that encourage international solidaristic relationships amongst women as well.
Wow, those are both fabulous questions. And we're holding a lot. And I'm going to introduce Walden Bello, who's also going to share a question. And this just points to how much we need these collaborations and these conversations. I could see a series of mini conferences coming out of this, maybe in Rojava, some of them in person, or in all of our different locations around the world. So Walden Bello is concurrently an international professor of sociology with us here at the State University of New York in Binghamton, a senior visiting research fellow at the Center for Southeast Asian Studies at Kyoto University, and co-chairperson of the Bangkok-based Research and Advocacy Institute Focus on the Global South. He's the author or co-author of 25 books, including most recently Counter-Revolution, The Global Rise of the Far Right, Paper Dragons, China and the Next Crash, Food Wars, Capitalism's Last Stand. Unfortunately, it has a question mark on it. So Dragons in Distress, and so many more. He received the Right Livelihood Award, also known as the Alternative Nobel Prize in Stockholm. And he was also named the Outstanding Public Scholar by the International Studies Association in San Francisco. Walden has been a human rights activist since the Marcos era. He's currently active in opposing the anti-human rights policies of the administration of now President Rodrigo Duterte. Walden, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Marina. Okay, and I'm very happy to be part of this conversation with the members of the faculty of the University of Rojava, and also to be with David Harvey, Arturo Escobar, Teresa O'Keefe, and Leopoldo Pecco. And thanks, Marina and Mary, for making this possible. I know that we're running out of time, but I first of all, just you know, what is so striking about what's happening in Rojava for me is a revolution in education taking place within a larger political revolution taking place in conditions of warfare, and that's that's an extremely challenging set of circumstances that not many of us face, but which our comrades in Rojava are in fact taking on. I think I will just ask the question of what has been mentioned a number of times, the perspective of genealogy and how this sort of expresses itself concretely in the system of education in Rojava. I'd like more clarification on that if possible. The second thing is, how is the educational approach related concretely to the political struggle that is now taking place? Related to that too is what are the very concrete ways that we on the outside, I mean, not in Rojava, I'm speaking from Bangkok and elsewhere, how can we concretely assist in this process that's going on? I know that there has been an invitation, at least an invitation reached me to become part of a mission to come over there. I think early in next year, and I think that would be a very exciting sort of prospect. And finally, what do our comrades in Rojava feel they are especially, what are the key things that they feel they are contributing to this larger educational revolution that's taking place? So those are sort of just interconnected questions. And, thank you again for allowing me to be part of this great discussion.
Wonderful. Sardar, do you want to facilitate the Kurdish part? Thank you.
Yes, sure. Okay, I'm going to change between Kurdish English. Let me first say it in Kurdish. أولنا نهاس برسبون برسكي السركة بوجبوي خباتن باشا جينولوجي بلكي أول جوزان والسورقول بكاربن برسفافيا بدن نظام أول جوزان برس همو قرت النوسا تمام برسكيدن هبو لسر أو سياستين هف پشتیوانی سياستين سوليداريتي و پرسکی چند پرسبون درباره برنامه پرورده لزانینگهی روژاوا و به شوازی که کنکریت کجان خبات پیش دکبن که ام دکارن بالی لسر بکشینن و چوا ام يعني کسی درباره دکارن آلی کاربن يعني بقشتي أو بن زيادة وقت مجينا ما يزبا أورم تاني 10-15 دقيقة مايا. I think we have only 10-15 minutes, right, Marina?
I'm just corresponding with the translators, and our wonderful Kurdish translators will go until 2 o'clock if our friends, and I'm checking in with Romina in Spanish. And if the translators are willing, which is amazing, she is also so much solidarity. Okay, then if everyone in Rojava is good, we can go until 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Thank you.
هما زوزان تخوازی تو دست بکه برسوا جنولوژی
هنکی بردوام به باشتر و چه مجار برا
هری
برسوا
هتا ساعت دو بردوام به والمصطفى تجي آلیه تکلیان اگر که هنکی بحث
ازش
کی
داویه دا
باشتر
برای حوال
ما
ما مجار تخصص جدا بقدین ازش داویه دانه چند خال هن از داویه دا بشه
تمام ما مستروحان تجي اگر درباره برنامه پرورده هنک میناکین تایبت نشان بده که چه برنامه ما لوی داره جدای لبرنامه دولتی و شوازی که آلترناتیو هم تخوازن چه بکن و کی میناک به سیستما پرگال اکریدی وانه ده یعنی جی برنامه درسه و آلی هفکاری دیگه زانینگه و جی هندنده باشت به اجی داوی ده هینه کشته بجن سوزان تخوازی چی دست بکن؟
The question about genealogy and how it's integrated into the system of education. Genealogy is a faculty that is linked to sociology in our universities. Our students, also in the female educational organizations, are studying it as part of sociology. We are using all the experience that are collected from feminists around the world, also from Kurdistan. We're implementing those to give encompassing summary on the progresses of society in relation to the women's struggle. Very early, we thought very important to break the standard of gender the link between the gender and the state, how it's being enforced in society. It was very important that we are breaking it early. On the other hand, on the side of economy, also education, defense, also education of military force, we applied the genealogy to it to educate people on how to behave in society. We are giving the same education also to the co-chairs of all different organizations, also to the family officials that are doing all those works. Genealogy is not just limited to one subject, but it is seen as an all-encompassing subject of morality that needs to be applied in all different fields of education. We are able by that to analyze all the mistakes that are happening in society by the question of morality, social morality. The other question, which was pretty long, I will try to reply it. The capitalist system is trying to protect itself and continue itself. What we did is to never separate the question of genealogy from systemic questions as well. We regard every progress in society as a revolution of the woman. In daily life, for example, we are looking at how the impact of capitalism is getting less when these principles of genealogy are being applied to free society by free the individual woman based on those principles that we are discussing. So it's about the freedom of the individual as well that is having kind of like an impact on the lessening strengths of capitalism. It is that way that we are working against the system of oppression that is so intricate and woven into society. There are questions were made about how we can be helped. In Rojava, North and East Syria, we are seeing that we have a huge potential to be able to support also communities from all around the world in a moral way and also ideological, intellectual way about how to work against the bad influences of capitalism. And for that, there needs to be progress in the communication to be able to create a more aware situation among all women and societies in general in the world that are trying to resist against the bad effects of capitalism. The things that have evolved in Rojava need to be regarded as your own gain. It is not only regional, it is your own gain. It is values that you want to achieve in your own society that have been achieved in that region. So identifying yourself with the revolution that is being done, with the education that is being done, this is already the first step, a most important step to be able to support it in any manner possible. And by that also we will be able to stop the invasion by the Turkish state and all the violence that is going on. That's what we believe in.
سلام ورس خیراتنا همو بشتروان دیگن همو دوست هوار
I'm greeting everybody here that has joined this topic. I'm greeting every of our guests that is here and ready to do this talk. Marina gave a lot of effort to be able to organize this very precious meetings with so many important guests. The international relation of the Rojava universities is indeed quite strong, like with universities in America. We have a couple of agreements and contacts with professors from the university in Washington, Connecticut, from the faculty of sociology. We are working together and it's working very well. Sometimes there are political situations that are not allowing our work to progress very much, but it's going well. In Connecticut, we have projects that are working together. We have made some projects with the sociology part in Rojava University, so we are thanking them for that opportunity and support. We have also contact with other universities in other countries, like in Germany. They are all official. We have also delegation in Germany for educational purposes for Cîhanî education. It's working very well. And we have also contracts with universities of Parma in Italy. We are very active and very strongly interacting also in California, also in Iraq, and all other countries. It's working very well. I want to let it know that it's going well. But the obstructions that are being given are, of course, a little bit that are quite debilitating. For example, we had struck a deal with universities outside, but on political side, they was intervening and saying that this should be stopped. Dr. Marina supported us in this case. We are very grateful for every support. But as you see, there are political actors that are trying to prevent our interactions. The region of North and East Syria, we are very often calling it a Kurdish region, but it's in fact, it's not the case like that. It is literally and absolutely very true, a multi-ethnic place where in an unprecedented way, so many different ethnicities are applying their educational system for their own culture and for a communal together living in a peaceful way. And as we said before, Society by the Freedom of Women. And especially the Turkish state doesn't want that revolution based on freedom of women shouldn't succeed, according to them. That's why the Turkish state is attacking Rojava so extremely, savagely. Our friends outside of Rojava and Syria need to be aware that there is a war waged on the education system, and there needs to be an active approach and support and solidarity and practice to be able to raise awareness and have a good impact on the peaceful options in the situation, because otherwise it will not quite work out. There are many very influential people around the world that if they're talking publicly about what is happening, they would be able to impact societies all around the world about how they see the conflict that is happening, namely as an attack, as a one-sided attack of the Turkish state against democratic organizations and universities that try to build a very democratic and peaceful situation. And with that kind of support that is active, things will be able to change. Otherwise, it is limited to otherwise it's limited to just symbolical help.
Sorgul ma Mr. Wahan Jagat
Sorgul, do you want to also talk about something? I want to understand first. I think there was a question about how you can involve people in very difficult situations in this kind of revolution. I want to talk a little bit about the communal system and how you can organize society by that. I think that was one of the questions. I want to reply it now. Okay, I'll do it now. Some of the teachers, professors have asked about that, how you can mobilize society in Rojava or generally in the world amid the difficult systemic situations. So how do you mobilize people? There are many difficulties that people are living. This is a very clear fact. There are so many attacks and obstructions that have been laid in front of us, but still there is a lot of support by the local population for this educational system. The way we are doing it is by creating communal systems in every region that are governing themselves and interacting very conscious with each other to be able to live together, to take care of livelihood. These are encompassing all different ethnicities. It's based on local governance, communal councils. We have that. We have those in all different cities, mixed with all different ethnicities. It is based on the principle of how to be able to overcome the systemic difficulties, to be able to concentrate on a new solution for the future. It is a union in economical way as well. People are helping each other economically, morally as well. They're talking with each other in every region where they are, talking about the experiences and problems that have existed, and are showing care to each other to be able to work together in first place. What the people will understand then through these kind of like changes where you're independently trying to organize yourself, you're understanding that you have a part in society, you have a part in changing the system because it's your life that is at stake here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There was a question about our education system, how it's built up. As the University of Northeast Syria, we are at the stage of building ourselves up. We are starting with that. We are applying also the experiences from the Arab colleagues and the universities that had been created before. Built up the structural system. We are still in the process of shaping every subject in the way that we are doing it here, but we want it in every other university as well. Up until now, all the universities had been very theoretical before the Syrian system, and they were not really relatable to people. A lot of information was given, but they were not really creating an understanding or social awareness among students. They weren't really caring about what they were learning before. So we don't want to limit it to theory. We want to create our system educational in a very interactive way, where there is no difference between student and teacher, and each profession is seen as a personal gain by letting the students know and feel that it's important what they learn and how they learn, that their opinion is appreciated. We have difficulties in establishing the special offices like laboratories because of the embargo obstructions by states all around. But in a practical way, we are giving our best to give a very practical experience to all the students. Also, during the summer courses, we are offering internships to every student who wants to apply their knowledge that they learned in the practice to have immediately an idea of what it means to do these studies. What we are doing is at the end of the year, we are also offering a test that they have to do. They do not need to just memorize at the end and write it down and then forget afterwards. Our goal is to change that vicious circle. We are engaging every student into the very detail and core of the meaning of education and what it means, what they have achieved. And we are encouraging everybody to do their own research, to talk about it, to feel what they have learned, and to be able to identify with it, be proud with it. The teacher is like a guide to the students, to show them the way of how to be themselves a teacher. They're interacting without having differences in their own status. If the student knows something, the student will teach the teacher. This is the kind of system that we are supporting and actually applying. A very practical oriented project where every student is able to apply and be very proud and outspoken about what they have learned in society and be known by that.
I also want to address some of the questions that were asked, especially those about solidarity. I mean, as a Kurdish person, we have been through a lot of terrible things in the past 50 years. You can go even back to the beginning of the 20th century and the rise of nation states in the region, but especially with the rise of solidarity, international solidarity politics in the last 2 decades, I might say. Many among the Kurdish communities, many among the people in the region found themselves trying to shop for solidarity, trying to shop for attention. And this has been very damaging. And especially when you look at the region and the war, the occupation war in Palestine, and what's happening right now, it's really hard for us to raise our hands to also demand part of the attention that have been given to this issue and diverted to the Kurdish question. And this is not ethically a right thing to do as well. I mean, when you go on social media, you see that many Kurdish commentators say they are furious, and rightfully so, that just a few days before the new conflict started in the occupied Palestine, in Israel. Turkey destroyed most of the infrastructures in Rojava, killed close to 150 people, including children, and they asked why there wasn't an outcry about that. And similarly with Afghanistan, we see that a lot is happening, and a lot of Afghan friends, comrades, they're complaining why there is no attention to what's happening there, to women, to people who are struggling, to the radical movements and that part. In Iran as well, many in Turkey are struggling against the dictator Erdogan, and they are not getting this attention. I mean, it shouldn't be like the way that this oppressed people, the people very unprivileged in terms of access to networks, to people, to resources, to demand this attention, to demand solidarity. We see that solidarity politics in the US, in North America especially, is very much affected by anti-imperialism, which is totally fine. But this anti-imperialism does not address the sub-imperialist wars that are happening, like, let's say, in the Middle East, how Turkey has been waging war against Armenians, against Kurds, in different parts of not just Middle East, but also North Africa, against Armenia through Azerbaijani forces, and inside against its own people. And Iran, again, when we look at that in terms of anti-imperialism, I have seen many people that are kind of defending Iran and calling out the movement, the Zanîngeha Azadi movement, something that is related to American politics in the world. I mean, sometimes there is an overlap. Like when you fight against ISIS and you need ammunition, this fight is not just for the Kurdish people, not for Yazidi people. It's on behalf of everyone affected by this war. And when you work with the coalition forces to destroy ISIS, to eliminate its threat against your communities, it's not collaboration. And the people in Rojava, in Northeast Syria, they have been saying it quite loud that this collaboration does not mean that we approve or we are part of this imperialist project in the region. But we have a very hard time to convince people that the attention that you should give to this region is beyond all of that. The alternative system that has been created in Northeast Syria, despite all of the challenges, can be the future if we support it. It is the only hope. I say that, and I believe in that. It is the only hope if you want to have a progressive, democratic solution for everything that's happening in the region. And of course, this solution has many enemies, and the solidarity that we can build is so crucial for that. And the work that we are doing, this very meeting, could be part of that. And we cannot emphasize that enough. It's really, really important. And we shouldn't come to scholars, to activists, to communities of resistance to give us attention, to come in solidarity with us. And this is what is so great about the work that Mariana and everyone at the Sociology Department of Binghamton have been doing, because they started this initiative. And we also, as the Kurdish community, as all the people of Northeast Syria, as this project, this political, progressive, democratic project, we don't want to remain in these boundaries. We don't want to be provincialized. What people in Northeast Syria are saying, that this system, this alternative, is not only for Kurdistan. This is a paradigm for Syria. This is a paradigm to solve problems in the Middle East region. And like how Zanîngeha Azadi became a global slogan, Women, Life, Freedom, this can be part of our global quest to find an alternative for all of these troubles that we are facing. And we are facing an existential threat with all of that. And unfortunately, what's happening in Israel-Palestine in near future can get everyone, and it might be too late to do something. So from now on, we can build the very work that we are doing here. We can build this solidarity, caucuses, little groups, collectives. Please be in touch with folks in Rojava, in anywhere. Communities of resistance are happening around the world. So we are also trying to connect with them. We are connected to many different groups in Southeast Asia, in Latin America. We have been in direct communication with Chiapas, with Zapatistas, with many different progressive and leftist parties in Europe, in North America. And this works is really vital for all of us, not just for the people of Northeast Syria. Thank you so much again, and I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for such an uplifting in the context of everything, which is exactly what Rojava is doing, right? Kind of then bringing us to the achievements and the possibility, which is incredible right now. Thank you. And thank you for all of that. And Mary, if you'd like to say something, just everyone who came from around the globe, from Asia and Africa and Latin America. We have a truly global, the Middle East, a truly global space here, parts of Europe, the United States, all occupied lands. Thank everyone. And we will continue. Mary, you.
Just to add to the thanks, I want to thank everyone who's here, especially the folks from the University of Rojava. And I also want to give special thanks to Marina, who did a lot of work to make this happen, talking to a lot of different people, reaching out to them, making a poster for the first time, I think. And I thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you all again and continuing our work of solidarity.
Thank you, everybody.